Priceline is a third-party travel booking website that allows users to search for and book flights, hotels, vacation packages, and other travel-related services. Like many online platforms, Priceline uses terms and conditions, also known as a user agreement, to define the legal relationship between the company and its users. Although users are informed that they are agreeing to be legally bound by using the website, most users are unlikely to read the full agreement due to its length and complexity. As a result, users may not fully understand the rights they are giving up or the obligations that they are accepting. This evaluation examined Priceline's terms and conditions with a focus on contractual validity, user consent, dispute resolution, and customer fairness. Priceline's terms and conditions function as a browse wrap agreement, meaning that users are considered to have agreed to the terms simply by accessing or using the website. Users are not required to provide affirmative consent, such as clicking an I agree button, before using the site. Instead, Priceline relies on language within the term stating that users are legally bound by their use of the site. The terms are made available through a link rather than through a required acceptance mechanism. So while Priceline does include some notice, such as bolded references within the terms, users must still locate and read a lengthy document to fully understand the agreement. Browse wrap agreements can be legally valid. However, the enforceability depends largely on whether users are provided with reasonable notice. In this case, Priceline's approach promotes efficiency for the business, but may reduce user awareness of important legal rights and obligations. Priceline's terms state that any revisions or updates are effective immediately upon posting, and that users are not required to be directly notified when changes occur. While users are expected to read and accept the terms, updates may be made without prior notice. In practice, most users do not revisit terms and conditions unless prompted to do so. This is particularly concerning in browse wrap agreements where user awareness plays a key role in enforceability. Even if a user initially read the terms, new provisions may be added later, and the user remains legally bound without necessarily being aware of those changes. Although this approach benefits Priceline by allowing flexibility, it places a greater burden on users and raises concerns regarding informed consent, transparency, and fairness. By accessing the Priceline website, users agree to comply with the terms and conditions and are expected to follow the rules outlined within them in order to maintain access to the site. Continued use of the platform is conditional upon ongoing compliance, placing consistent obligations on users. At the same time, Priceline reserves broad authority under the agreement. The terms allow Priceline to modify, suspend, or terminate user access at any time, for any reason, and with or without notice. Even after termination, users remain bound by their obligations while Priceline limits its own liability for any resulting losses. This structure creates an imbalance in which users assume greater responsibility and risk, while Priceline maintains broad control and limited accountability. Priceline requires that most disputes between the company and its users be resolved through arbitration rather than traditional court litigation. Arbitration serves as the primary method of dispute resolution under the terms and conditions. While users may bring claims in small claims court, this is a limited exception. Users may also opt out of arbitration, but only within 30 days and by taking proactive steps. Arbitration significantly limits a user's ability to sue Priceline in a regular court and typically eliminates the possibility of class action lawsuits. This structure benefits Priceline by reducing litigation risks and associated costs. Although users technically have alternatives, most are unlikely to notice or act on these options within the required time frame, which limits users' practical access to the court system. Overall, Priceline's terms and conditions are likely legally valid. Browse wrap agreements can be enforceable, and arbitration clauses are commonly upheld. However, enforceability depends on reasonable notice, transparency, and user awareness, elements that are not clearly communicated within these terms. While the agreement effectively protects the business, it places greater risk and responsibility on users. Users may not fully understand that they are legally bound, that the terms can change without notice, or that arbitration limits their ability to pursue legal claims. This creates a largely one-sided agreement that raises real-world concerns regarding fairness and user protection. There are several recommendations that I have that could improve the fairness and transparency of Priceline's terms and conditions. First, Priceline should require affirmative consent at key moments such as booking or payment to ensure informed consent. Second, arbitration provisions should be more clearly and prominently disclosed so that users understand what legal rights they may be waiving. Third, Priceline should actively notify users when terms are updated through email or on site alerts. And finally, adopting plain language summaries, clearer headings, and improved organization would make the agreement easier to understand for users, even those from diverse backgrounds. It will confirm transparency and it will build trust without sacrificing efficiency. In conclusion, this evaluation examined Priceline's terms and conditions with a focus on contract formation, notice, dispute resolution, and consumer fairness. While the agreement is likely legally valid and effective at protecting the business, its reliance on browse rep, limited notice of updates, and mandatory arbitration raises concerns about user awareness and fairness. By improving transparency, notice, and informed consent, Priceline could create a more balanced and user-friendly agreement while maintaining operational efficiency. Thank you.